just feel
yeah,
free to,
yeah.
you know.
And then what I'll do is that I'll then lead on to, like, you know, the third book and, you know, how that's different and so on. So, so Johnny, just to sort of kick things off, really, just tell us about how you got into into writing and obviously publishing these books.
Well, you know, that's a real strange thing, Justin, because at one stage during my life would I ever thought I'd become a writer, let alone an author. I got into writing, it was in 2008. That's when I first sat down and wrote my first autobiography called Dumb Peckham, which is this one here. This was the makings of Johnny Mack, the author. How I got into that was where I've come from, like in London, in Peckham. I've been involved in organised crime all my life. You know, I've worked with some notorious criminals, a lot of infamous people that I'm not prepared to name. But you know, I worked my way up through the ranks, and during them years, a lot of things went on. You know, there's a lot of stories there to be told. You know, and when I eventually wanted to retire from crime, I moved away, and I moved down to the south coast, and I moved to this place where the people, what I would call, were just normal. You would find me there on a Saturday night with a few beers in me, telling some stories to people, you know, especially the locals. They wouldn't really believe what I was talking about, you know, they didn't understand what I was talking about half the time, but, you know, they really wouldn't believe it, you know, because it was too extreme, you know. Not that I give any names away or anything, it was just a case of I was just trying to tell them some of the things I've been up to and where I come from and what I've done. But my daughter and her friends and used to just love hearing me sit there and talk about the old days, and I'll talk about the old days going back to the 70s and the 80s and you know, and then type of that era. And she used to say to me, you know, Dad, you should write a book. And I used to say to her, you know, Joe, how can I write a book? I've got no education, I've got no English qualifications. And she said, Dad, but you put a story over so well. So, you know, I considered it for a while, and as I say, in 2008, you know, she kept on at me a little bit to do it, and so I sat down to do it. And the biggest problem I had was, how was I going to get a style? You know, this, what they call it, a genre, to be able to write. And I couldn't think of it, you know, or even try. I tried looking at other people's books, and I didn't want to start copying other authors' styles. And then she came out with a classic, and she said, Dad, why don't you write the way you talk, you know, as if the way you tell a story. And I put that into practice, and it worked really well. And that's when we come up with Dumb Peckham. And it does. I mean, I've had people now that have read this book, which is, I might say now, is turning into a classic. It's doing really, really well. It's, you know, they've actually said it's like as if I'm in the room telling them the story, which is exactly the effect I wanted. That book itself, I mean, I sent it off to the publishers. I sent it off to 40 publishers. I sent it off all in the wrong format. And 3 of them, I've got 37 knockbacks actually, but then they said they hadn't read it, it was in the wrong format and they binned it, but 3 of them said yes. Even though it was in the wrong format, they did take the time out to read it and found it a really, really interesting life story. So they published it, and then they wanted the second half of my life, you know, they wanted to know what happened from the days of, you know, the London crime scene to me moving away to the south coast. They wanted, you know, what happened afterwards, you know, because it wasn't an easy transition for me going from London to south coast. It was quite dramatic to me, mentally and emotionally. So I sat down and I wrote the next novel, which, well, not novel, autobiography, which was this one, Landed on the Moon. You know, and that's what I called the place where I lived. where I'm living today. It felt like I landed on the moon compared to where, the streets of Peckham, so I called it, landed on the moon. So I think that's appropriate. Anyway, I mean, that one came out in March last year, and that one has been doing extremely well. So, on social networking places like Twitter and Facebook, I've got a lot of followers who just love what I'm writing, love the material, because they're actually saying it's so real, So, it's gone on from there. And, after I'd done that, I thought maybe that would be the end of my writing career. Maybe that I wouldn't be able to do anything else, because I couldn't keep writing about Johnny Mack all the time, even though there's a lot more to write. I decided to try fiction. And I sat down and I come up with an idea of writing a book which is titled Memoirs of Hitman. The way I got the characters for that book is that I used characters that I knew from my past. So certain characters that are in the book actually exist, but obviously they've got a different role play in the book because it's fictitious. But I knew these people personally, so I knew when they were angry, I knew when they were sad, I knew when they were bad, and I knew their mannerisms. So what I've done is I just adapted them into the novel, and it fitted lovely, and I just gave them a different name, described them differently, but these are actual walking, living characters of today that are actually in this book, Memoirs of a Hitman. And the story itself wasn't far off the truth, even though it is about a hitman who goes around bumping people off. It's not a true story, but there is an element of truth into it, of what goes on in the type of the crime syndicates and the little firms that I work for. So yeah, I mean, it came out okay. That's really how I got on the roll. You see. So
was it a big challenge, making that step across to fiction?
To be honest with you, no, it wasn't. I found it quite easy because all I had to do was think back. Up here, I've got a library, and in that library, I've got lots of events, lots of things that have happened, not only just to me, but to other things. So I've got a whole load of storylines in my head. It's like, I've got about 10 books up here at the moment that I could sit down and write. And I chose the Memoirs of Hitman because I thought that's a good little storyline, and say a lot of it is based on people I know. So I often got told things in the past what had happened to other people, and it's just a case of just mixing them around, and then you've got a story, and they're quite exciting stories, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't a challenge. No, it's coming out quite easy actually. More natural than what I actually thought, So yeah, I'm well chuffed. Yeah.
You've obviously high hopes for the character, and obviously the way this character evolves as well.
Oh yeah, the character in this book, in Memoirs, Jack, he's a character and a half. He's a like a rogue, even though he's going around killing people. I mean, he doesn't really want to do it because he's madly in love. It's also a love story. It's not just all wham bang shooting and cutting people's toes off and things. It's a love story on its own. So there's this guy who actually, he doesn't want to kill people. He's a divorced guy. He's in his late 40s. He meets a younger girl, and she's quite ill. She had a tumour on the brain, which is affecting arteries. It was a benign tumour, but having the tumour removed would cause certain complications, and she was pregnant at the time. So what she done is she braved it out and saw the pregnancy through, even though she was risking her own life. And she had the baby, and Jack, who's the main character, really fell head over heels in love with this girl because she was willing to die to have his baby. So, you know, he wanted out. And he goes to his boss and he says, look, my Hannah, because that's her name, the leading character, is ill, you know, and I really do need to look after her and the baby, you know. And but they didn't want to let him go. You know, in organised crime, they don't want to let you go. So, he asked politely in the right ways, and they said, look, you know, we'll come up with an alternative for you. We'll give you a bit of part-time work. And that meant nipping out 3 or 4 times a year and whacking people. Still getting the wage for it, you know. And this he could do because he had no connections to the people, you know. But one particular person he had to go and whack, he didn't mind doing it because it was a sex offender. But the main thing was it was the way they wanted it doing. You know, they wanted him literally tortured for 2 days. And he thought he could do it, but he wasn't quite up to it, and it sickened his guts a little bit. So he decided that, you know, if this was going to way it was going to be for the future, he wanted out. So he begins to devise a plan on how to get out because he knows he can't do a runner, just walk away because they'll hunt him down or his family or whatever. And, you know, so he had to devise a plan. So, yeah. So the book itself is really, really exciting. It's got lots of plots and twists and everything. But main thing is it's realistic. It's how it would happen. It's not like some Die Hard 2 thing with Bruce Willis in it, you know, coming out with some, you know, stupid plot, you know, that's unbelievable. This is all believable stuff, you know. Jack's a very nice guy, believe it or not, but he's a very clever and shrewd man, you know. So, yeah, it's pretty good.
Exciting times ahead for your readers. I know that, having read your previous 2 books and been these record sorry, let me repeat that question. Obviously, we can make an edit or something. I know that having attended your book signings in the past and having read your 2 books so far, you do have a very loyal following, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I've got quite a few thousand followers on social networking, Twitter and Facebooks. I get approximately about 300 emails a day. And I do answer them all. I literally do. You know, it's very time consuming. At the same time, as I've got to find the time to write. I've now taken on a team where I've got a sub editor. She helps me out a great deal. It's Caroline Diamond, great girl. I mean, she works with me perfectly. I mean, she's got my type of mentality when it comes to putting words down onto paper. So she helps me out a great deal, which means that we're looking at knocking out about 2 to 3 books a year now. And hopefully I might continue with the character I've got in Memoirs of Jack, you know, and bring him along because, you know, he's a good character. Yeah, so the followers, I think, my followers I would presume would love Jack. You know, the minority of people that have actually seen the manuscript love him. I quite like him as well. You know, he's based on a person I know personally, and he was a lovable rogue, and I've used him in this book, and it's great, and I reckon they love him as well. Yeah.
I mentioned exciting times for your readers, but I get the impression, you know, these are good times to be Johnny Mack. You know, it's all very exciting at the moment. As you say, loads of ideas and loads of things in the pipeline as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got in the States, we've got a film company called Clairvoyant Pictures. They're very, very interested in making an American version of Memoirs of a Hitman, because it's based on South London organised crime family. They want to do it as an Irish-American crime family, and to translate it into American was quite easy, because all we had to do was change the names, change the location, and that was it. Everything everything else fitted in. So there is an American version out there, and the main character in that screen treatment is called Danny Mullins. So we've actually just changed the names over. So there is talk of a film being made, but it would be done on Americans as American type of film based in Boston, and then as opposed to South London. So I would love it to come out as an English film, because there's not been a lot of crime films out there, good ones, that is, with any meaning or, of any oomph. But if the Yanks want it, and which I'm sure they will, they're discussing it at the moment, then, it will. It transforms just nicely. It's just nicely. But saying that, Sky One were very interested in Dumb Peckham and Landed on the Moon as a 6-part TV drama series. We got up to the point of nearly clinching the deal, but Martina Cole, she'd done that series called The Tape, and she picked me at the post, and she's the queen of crime, and who was I? I was no one, I just come along, Johnny Mack, this ex-villain, and there I was up against Martina Cole, and I come second. But I've still kept the email to this day, and it's pride and it's got pride and place, and it's for me, it's an achievement, to be compared with Martina Cole. Martina, bless her heart, she does write about the same type of characters as I write about, and but it goes to show, first time out, and I nearly got a 6-parter, but you never know. I've got plenty more to come. There's so much more. I've got so many ideas that's out there. I've got a guy in Miami. He's a screenwriter. He's actually doing the complete screenwrite for Memoirs, American version, and we're hoping that if Clairvoyant don't have it, then we'll pitch it ourselves, to other would-be film companies. But this ain't like your average, crime stories. This is clever. This is from someone who knows how it goes on and how it works. But exciting times, definitely.